Let me ask you a question. How do men express themselves? It's a question not many people know the answer to. But I think it's important for society to know. Now, this question, how do men express themselves, is a question that many can't answer, or even comprehend. Because many get confused that, and the reason being is, they're under the belief that men don't express themselves at all. But they do. And when we hear that phrase, men should talk about their problems, or men don't express themselves, there's something that needs to be added onto that sentence. It's men don't express themselves like women. Because that's the key. Men and women don't express themselves the same way. Women express themselves directly. They talk about their issues directly. Men don't. Men have 3 indirect ways of expressing themselves. Through creativity, through practicality, and through thinking. I'm going to give an example in each just to give you an idea about how men express themselves in each different way. So first let's talk about creative expression. The great example of this is Eric Clapton after his son died. His son fell out of a skyscraper window when he was 4 and tragically died. Now, Eric Clapton himself was 2 years sober at the time, so he went to AA meetings. And when he would go, he wouldn't talk. He would sit down and play his guitar. And he was told, no, you should talk about your problems. You should talk about it. He said, no, I need to sit here and play my guitar. Because my guitar, I love this quote, my guitar, as it always has been, is my salvation. That's a powerful quote. That's a powerful line. And during this time he wrote 3 very famous songs. Tears in Heaven, which it's not so much about his grief, it's basically asking the question, will he and his son meet in heaven when Eric himself passes on? There's the song My Father's Eyes, which he thanks his son for allowing him to see his father's eyes through his son's eyes, because Eric never knew his father. And the last song is When the Circus Left Town, which is the last memory he had before the tragic accident, was he brought his son to the circus. And those memories of him at the circus will have to last him for his entire life. And those are powerful songs. I mean, he's talking about his grief, but yet expressing himself just indirectly. And it's something a lot of people don't really understand how men do it. Here's a practical expression. When men are doing something practical, they do express their feelings. The men's shed movement is a brilliant example of this, of men expressing themselves practically. When Tom Golden's father, for those who don't know, Tom Golden is a very well-known men's advocate. He speaks a lot about men's issues. When his father died, he and his brother built the box for his ashes. And when they were building that box, you know what they were doing? Telling stories about their dad. That's them expressing themselves. That's expressing emotion. Give you a bit more of a personal side of it. When I put IKEA furniture together, like my family love IKEA. And they get me to put it together because they know I like doing that. And when I'm putting IKEA furniture together, I'm talking. Now, I will admit, sometimes, well, most of the time, there isn't anyone to talk to. I still talk. I still talk out loud. And when I'm doing that, I'm expressing myself. And that does two things. It releases some emotion. And you do get a sense of pride that, oh look, I've built something. So, I've released some emotion and I've done something that is of benefit to others. I've built something that others can use. Now, let's talk about expression through thinking. This is something I know a lot about because this is how I express myself most of the time. I like to sit or lie down and just let my mind wander. And it does wander. And I don't know what thoughts are going to pop into my head. It's like, a lot of times I go, why the hell is that in now? You get weird thoughts when you do this. And those thoughts are weird. And I know they're weird. But I notice I always feel better when I get up afterwards. Not just because I'm physically rested, but it emotionally rests you as well, because you release some of them, some of those expressions, some of those emotions you have inside. And it's something that a lot of people really don't understand when it comes to men. That just thinking is a good way to do it. And another thing, when we have to make a big decision, we think the hell out of it. We think it through. And again, this is something that does annoy women, and I 100% understand. When men make those decisions, they don't want to explain those decisions and the detail of thought that has gone into making that decision after making it. Because they just go, I've made it, so let's move on. Now, I think it's important to talk about the mental health care system for a minute and why it's so ineffective for men. When talking about men's mental health, men are constantly implicated as the primary reason for their own suffering due to their alleged unwillingness to interact or engage with mental health care services. But these mental health care services, they aren't able to support men with poor mental health due to poor methods as a result of poor assumptions. So what are those assumptions? These assumptions came from when the mental health care system was really set up. When it was being started, it was done through a female-dominated psychology and social studies profession, which it's understandable why it would end up in such a female-specific way. It was set up for effective support in female-specific methods of emotional expression. But this is where the assumption comes in. It was assumed that that would also be effective for supporting men as well, which has just been wrong. A mile away from the mark. And the standard therapy scenario that we all know is we're sitting down and talking about our feelings today. That's very effective for women because that's how they express themselves. They express themselves directly. And that's a direct way of expressing yourself. But that method is useless for men. Useless. Getting men to express themselves while doing something else is the most societally effective tactic to use. Or also getting them to try and figure out the problem. And this is actually where some therapy methods are actually really effective. Cognitive behavioural therapy is a great example of this. professionally, it is the most effective way to support men. Why? Because it gets them to understand the relationship between thoughts, behaviours, and feelings. And when you try and figure that out, when men figure that out, they always know, okay, this is the best way to deal with this issue. But venting doesn't help men. Never has. So what do you think? Share your thoughts with me in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear them. And like and subscribe to the channel if you like the content that I make. Society needs to learn how men express themselves. If we don't, then men will continue to kill themselves at such a high rate. We need to understand men if society is going to be better.